focus on academics. Mr. Sutton.
First of all, glad to have you all here tonight. Judge Bland and Mr. Casey, new to here to the board. And, we work with the Instructional Service Department, obviously, as Chief Academic Officer and Director of Assessment and Accountability. And obviously last year, K-Prep testing was canceled. We didn't have an accountability system last year. We've changed commissioners. It's going to be adjusted again. But we came into this year with the same mindset that we're going to try to help each kid demonstrate 1 year of growth. And we're still looking at findings continuums. We're looking at individual student data. We're fluency testing. We're fast facts testing data this week. We got the ACT on March 9th for all juniors. You know, we're not stopping what we're doing. So we're still crunching data. And I just want to share some of that we've compared from last year to this year. So pre-pandemic, during the pandemic, kind of get an idea of what we're seeing. So I'm going to turn over and let her share that real quick.
Sure. Thank you all. Okay, so I've prepared a chart for you. As you know, here in the district, we use MAP, which is a adaptive test that our students take. This is probably the 17th year that we've used the MAP test. Usually we give it in the fall, winter, and spring. Last spring we did not get to give it because of school closure. So the fall of this current year, we dove right back in. But the data that you have, Ms. Morgan asked me to do a comparison of last fall with this fall. And so you have some numbers in front of you, and these are district numbers, not individualized by school. I have those available if you ever want to dig a little deeper and look at schools specifically. I'd be happy to share those. But what you have in front of you are lots of percentages and numbers. And before you really look at it, I just have a few disclaimers, because obviously comparing last year to this year, I'm sorry? Comparing last year to this year, there's a couple of things obviously that are different. For one, our student numbers vary right now. Obviously we have students that are in the Online Learning Academy virtual. We attempted to test those students remotely in their home with some success, some stumbling blocks, definitely a learning experience. So with that, not all students were tested this fall as they were last fall. So we have that. We did have to remove some scores for our online learning students because of help. Their scores were very skewed compared to last year, 30-point jump because a parent or guardian helped them with the test. So we did go in and invalidate those scores. They were pretty glaring. I mean, we definitely looked at lots of different things in terms of making that decision. And then now we're finding parents call and say, hey, my child's learning path that is attached to the MAP score is too hard. Well, you know, so probably because they had a little bit of assistance on that test. So, but again, a learning curve, something that we knew was going to happen. We were just trying to find some data for instructional purposes. And that's what MAP is the most valuable to our teachers, is where are these students instructionally. If you'll look at your numbers, you'll notice that second grade always has a dip. And that's just because of the type of test. So for kindergarten and first grade students, the test reads to them. It is an auditory test. It eventually becomes independent where they are reading it themselves. But in second grade, it transitions strictly to the student reading independently. And again, adaptive. If they miss so many questions, it takes them back down to basic. But then as they answer correctly, it will increase the rigor of the questions. So let's look a little bit at your numbers here. And Greg's going to jump in a little bit, kind of where we're at instructionally. You know, we thought when you look at these numbers, especially over on your right-hand side at your at and above grade level, it doesn't look so bad. for what we thought with such a gap in learning or in-person instruction. But with that being said, again, remember our numbers are a little bit different in the fall. We know that math seems to be kind of our biggest area that we're seeing are some, concerns. So we're definitely talking in schools with that. And then, go ahead.
Looking at your meeting expected growth percent over there on your left-hand side for math, you'll notice it's lower in almost every grade level, I think, except for first grade. So 57% expected growth in first grade was very good in math, but when you look at 15%, 35, 25, 25, 26, and compare that just a few columns over there to the reading expected growth, our kids perform much better in reading. I wasn't expecting that, not having books in their hands all the time, reading, but it seemed like we always say, math, if you don't use it, you lose it. And I think we got away putting that pencil to the paper and problem solving when we were in the pandemic. And that was a glaring set of data that just jumped out at us. We've got to get back to those. And people always say, well, those foundational skills, those math facts, problem solving. We've got to get back to that. And having kids back in the classroom is critical. So that data tells me that we missed some things there over that period of time.
Right,
Especially
one
in
thing,
math.
just in reading on that, Greg, that is a nationwide part of all test scores in the area of math nationwide are showing that decrease, and it just shows those younger years really do depend on that concrete sequential step-by-step that they're missing with this.
Do you think that the math is hurting in scores due to the fact that old folks like me, grandparents, can't help kids in this Common Core math?
Possibly some. I think it was just a matter of fact that
Hey, Greg, they need you to talk to the mic, please.
I think it just came down to we're trying to go through a computer screen to teach concepts to kids that are somewhat need to be concrete, but they're kind of abstract to the kid because they can't make the connection without the teacher modeling for them. And sometimes they need that person sitting next to them, like you said, going, subtract, carry the one. But when there's nobody there to redirect them or doesn't understand the concept, and the way we teach things now is not the way we taught things 30 years ago, per se. Some of the way we teach is a little bit different. And I think that's been a factor.
A lot of kids have stayed with grandparents through this ordeal. And we can read to them or we can read with them. But some of those problems, the way they come to a conclusion, I can get the answer, but I don't know how they get there.
Well, I spoke to three different grandparents this week that are guardians of their children, and they have more, roadblocks with the technology.
Really? Yes.
The technology that leads to the instruction. So that's a part that's been something we have to continue to help, provide support.
All right.
Yeah.
Sorry, I benched it.
No. And I look at it, think of it from the perspective of your younger students, your kindergarten, your first grade. So much of it is hands-on manipulatives, and trying to teach that through a computer screen while they can, and the teacher can it doesn't necessarily carry over, and it may be much more difficult, I would think.
And we say, and the grandparents tell me to go back and watch the video. Go back and watch the video. But that's why we see how valuable it is to have that teacher in class go over and sit with that child or an instructional assistant to model the process with the child there, moving the pencil with them versus just saying go watch a video. Because if anybody that ever struggled in any concept in school, we needed that teacher there to help us. We're showing the value in our teachers through this process. So it's good to be back. It's good to be back on an AB schedule. It's going to be great to be back 5 days a week. Sooner than later, we hope. So.
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
Yeah. The last thing I'll just bring your attention to is the little chart at the very bottom under the percentages you see here that has the little the bar graph with the blue and the yellow diamond is what map the actual computer projects as that grade level's growth. And if it's above the blue bar graph, they didn't reach what what map thought they should have reached. So those are other ways of us being able to determine what grade levels we're seeing. And again, you can notice how in math, all those diamonds are above the blue, and we know that, we recognize that. And again, on the right-hand side, you'll see the reading as they get older. those gaps. Second grade's always going to have that gap, again, like I explained, but that's what you have in front of you. So, any questions?
This looks better than I feared.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm utterly shocked at the reading. I really am. I did not expect that.
Yeah.
I really didn't expect that. I think we're doing better than the national statistics by a good bit, actually. And
Linda, did the math scores change this year? Did they I thought in 2020?
So
The
the norms do
norms.
change, but they adjust it for
Okay.
comparison. You have
Okay.
to go in and mark that you're making a comparison between the two norms, so that doesn't skew
Okay,
the.
I wondered.
so,
Thank you.
yeah, so this isn't
Absolutely.
skewed because of that. Okay.
Correct.
Yeah, the reading is just amazing. I wouldn't have expected that. This is better than I feared. I have
Yeah.
to say, this is much better than I thought. But it does make clear that for things like, holding 99 cubes and putting in the last cube to show how that manipulable
Right.
gives you the,
Right.
how multiplication works. That's hard to do on a screen. It just doesn't work the same way.
And we'll take another look. We tested in the fall, and we had to have such a broad window because of that remote testing that we made the winter test, which we normally take right now. We made that optional for schools to use for placement, different things like that. So that's optional right now, and then we'll take the spring test. And so we'll have more data, maybe more kids taking it, maybe, in the building taking it, and then I guess I would just say be prepared for different numbers when everybody's back in person, because then you'll have a bigger picture of what it's going to look
So
like.
we'll have a fall to spring comparison.
We will.
By the end of the year versus just a fall pre-pandemic to fall
Right.
this year.
Right,
And that's what we want to see is that year of growth for that child.
right.
And
I
the
think
type
that'll
of
be helpful.
construction I'm seeing out there,
I agree.
there's going to be some good growth. There just is. Our teams are working too hard.
So
Yeah.
do we have this, we have it by school, do you have
I
it by
do.
demographic group or?
I do not, but, I mean, I can do that. I'm
Just-
capable of pulling it, absolutely.
I guess we're hoping we don't need to
Right,
do that. So
True.
maybe things will get back to normal within normal's wrong,
I know.
to get better in 6 months or so.
Right.
Yep.
Okay, thank
Any
you
other
very much.
questions? Okay, did you want me to say something real quick about state testing?
Just real quick, we really don't have anything.
We don't have anything. If anybody follows the news,
Yeah.
the state is still, we're, in a holding pattern as far as what the state test will look like in the spring. Usually we take the K-Prep at the end of the school year in May, and we don't know what that's going to be. And the reason that is that comes from the federal government, passed down, and so they're waiting for a new Secretary of Education to decide if they're going to grant a waiver or not. So hopefully in the next month, we'll know a little bit more about what that'll look like, so.
Thank you, Linda.
We appreciate it, we hear a lot of comments from people, what does central office do? And here's typical examples of what some of the people in central office does, keeping numbers and seeing where we're advancing or declining or whatever. And we appreciate what y'all do. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we have an energy management update, and I think Christy Fetch and Kyle Lucas are going to present to us. Looking for good numbers here also.
All right.
Good afternoon, everyone. As you all know, behind every great business is a great partnership. And today I want to discuss that partnership that we currently have with Train and what we are able to accomplish through our Train building automation system and with the help with intelligent services to optimize what is spent on utilities for the district. With that being said, I'd like to take this time to introduce to you Ms. Christy Fetch, and who is in charge with intelligent services, and she can address further this partnership and what we've been able to accomplish through the help of intelligent services.
Thank you. So some new faces, some old that we've met before. So I'm Christy Fetch. I'm the account manager for Hardin County Schools, and we work together to reduce utility spend and increase the environment quality for the students, the teachers, and the faculty. So today we just wanted to give you an update. We usually do this about annually. I think we're at our 18-month mark now, but Just so that you know, we've been partners with Train and Hardin County Schools for several years. But in 2017, we engaged together in intelligence services. So we're looking at real-time energy monitoring. We run the building data actually through analytics to identify where is there anomalies and how do we stop emergency breakdowns from happening in equipment, mechanical equipment, and how do we just make it operate better and live longer. So I wanted to tell the board today about utility rates. So why do we care about energy, and why does Train care about energy? Why does Kyle care about energy and the facilities team? So over the course of the last decades, you've seen natural gas prices have continued to go down, and now they've kind of leveled out. They're just hanging in the middle. Well, the electric rates, on the other hand, have continued a very just rigorous upward tick. And so today we just wanted to talk about how we're saving energy and electric together. So in a typical school, the utility bill does not break down how the energy is being used. So having data is really how we figure out where we go to attack and drive results. So just briefly, this is what a typical school, the energy breakdown, both gas and electric, where it comes from. And so you might be surprised that the largest user is actually HVAC, so from the mechanical equipment. And then you have a large chunk that's lighting, so 25% lighting. So that's really where we spend our time, is how do we take down that biggest piece of the pie. Well, we use energy, and we use benchmarking tools and tools to validate our results. So Energy Star is the EPA's program that recognizes buildings that are in the top 25% of their peers. So if you're using the least amount of energy, you're going to have the higher score. So you have to have a score of 75 or better to become a certified commercial building. So tonight we're here to present some of those awards to you, but want to show that this is also a public relations tool. This is telling that you are being financial stewards, that you are taking the time and the efforts to, instead of sending money to the utility company, you're keeping it within the district. It's also a teaching tool. These are going to be outward displaying plaques that can then say, why do we have this? Why do we care? We know that there's some green teams that you have in the district. So these are just some facts, but tonight we're here to tell you which ones were awarded.
Well, as you can see there, Cecilia Valley and GC Burkett, I know they're new buildings, but those qualified here in the 2019 school year, but got 2020 recognition for that 12-month period. It's based on 12 months of data. Creekside, Meadowview, North Park, and Vine Grove are the next schools that are being certified as of right now, and we've got plaques for those as well. The next Energy Star schools that we're looking at trying to certify, with COVID restrictions and everything being shut down there for a while, with building not being occupied, it's based on building occupancy. So as long as the kids aren't in the facilities, we can't really project a good score. It's kind of false data. But the next schools that were on the brink at the time being as the other schools would be Ronnieville, North Hardin, and Bluegrass. And of course, we'll be working towards more after that, Heartland, and hopefully the new Lincoln Trail and new East Hardin.
Before we move on, a few of the criteria, you mentioned occupancy, but it also measures like outdoor air, making sure that you're getting the proper ventilation as well as energy reduction. So it really is about how is the school operating as a whole, not just from, it would be really easy to say, let's just cut out all the lights and turn off the air, but that's not what we want to do. We want to make sure it's an optimal learning facility as well as an efficient facility. And we want to recognize EC3. So EC3, we're presenting the Reducing the Energy Intensity of the World Award. And the reason why they're not getting Energy Star is the Energy Star does not have enough data in like buildings to be able to certify this. So we do want to recognize their efforts for the energy reduction that they've achieved so far. So our program, obviously we want to make healthy facilities, but we also want to drive savings. So over the course of from 2017 to present, you'll see this is based on the fiscal year. We started the program together just at John Hardin and at Central Hardin. So, and as the years have gone on, we've continued to add additional facilities. What you'll see is the savings achieved, that's gas and electric, and that's right out of the utility bills. So we could go, we validate it in the data from the energy meters, but we also validate it from the utility bills. You'll see that we do include the intelligence services cost because it is a program. There is a fee to that, so we deduct that so you actually see the net savings. You'll see for 2020 and 2021, so we're that year, we denoted that there is April and May have been pulled out, and that was because of COVID, and we'll show you next where that is. But so we're already through October, we were sitting at over $65,000 in raw savings. And if you want to go to the next slide.
And the total savings for the 4-year period was what again?
$180,749.
Well, seems like that's been worth it.
So I think so. So this is just a breakdown of, for the months of April and May of 2020, these numbers, these are significant savings numbers. And this is really attributed to the partnership and to Kyle and the facilities team working diligently to take advantage of unoccupied buildings. So they were able to go in and make schedule changes and make sure that everything was running as efficient or as reduced as it possibly could. And so the numbers really show for that.
And as we last spoke at our last meeting, we discussed some optimizations and some investments that we would like to accomplish within the district. And I'm glad to say we were able to complete all those projects that we previously talked about with some help, programming help from Train. If you look at the first bulletin there, we were able to add those controls to the pump packages at John Hardin and, able to cut down the run time of those pumps whenever the building wasn't occupied. Just kind of wasted energy there. That shows a projected yearly savings of $10,654. And in that regard, we went through the whole district's building automation system and checked all the pump packaging programming, and we have a projected yearly savings there of $11,925. And we also would like to utilize some of the existing controls that we already had in the building. And so by doing that, we were able to break out some scheduling things, conflicts that we had with the Commons area at Central Hardin in the 9th grade wing, to where we wasn't running HVAC equipment throughout the whole building just for, 2 or 3 classrooms in the admin area. And that shows a projected savings of $2,300 there. We also used the existing controls to schedule the parking lot lights at Creekside, College View campus, and Rineyville Elementary. That was more of it had controls on it, but it was a time clock issue, and sometimes if time clocks aren't managed properly, they're on when they're not supposed to be. So you don't see as much savings there, but around $500 there. Used existing controls to schedule Rineyville's hot water heaters and circulating pumps, projected yearly savings of $3,400. And then the investments where we put in a little more money to get back, annually. We upgraded all the LED lighting at the Woodland and Elementary and Creekside Elementary's cafeteria, projected year savings there of $1,950. And we updated the parking lot light at Heartland Elementary, switched over to LED there, and put new controls on North Middle's parking lot lights. And you see a projected yearly savings of $2,500 there. And also at West Hardin Middle School, we were able to add Wi-Fi thermostats and to schedule those units on and off. Got a projected yearly savings of $1,925. Altogether, roughly was about $35,000 annually that we should see, savings from. And right here, intelligent services, what's next? Really with rising demand charges and the design of particular facilities in the district, I would possibly look at maybe expanding IS to James T. Alton for the high demand charges there, New Highland Elementary and Lakewood. And possibly, since the new schools already have the smart metering like we were talking about, managing the building through the energy use live data could really help us there at the new schools as well.
Yeah, so a building could be, whether it's 40 years old or brand new, it's all about how it's operating, right? So, and what we do to make these investments or make the changes that are needed to achieve these Energy Star. This is just, I don't want to miss the fact that this is a huge achievement for the district, for the facilities team, for Kyle, because it's not every day. This isn't something that we say, oh, wow, that's great, let's move on. But it should be very celebrated by the district because it shows the investment. And we want to continue. We want to keep leveraging the investments that you've made and sustain those savings. And this is actually, it has to be recertified every year. So this is not a lifetime. So that means we have to keep operating the buildings efficiently and recertify them with a professional engineer annually.
Yeah, and like we discussed, these are 2020 awards here that we've got sitting out today. In conclusion, with this continued partnership with Train and the possible expansion of intelligence services, I have great confidence that we'll be able to continue and accomplish the goals that we've discussed today. Does anybody have any questions?
Any questions?
I guess the only question I would have was, you know, we talk about April and May of 20. Some of those costs could be maybe lower because of not using those buildings
Exactly.
with full capacity like we would have should school have been there, I guess, but
Exactly.
still it's a savings. I'm not taking that away from it at all. I just feel like that, sort of like our kids' numbers here, we're a little bit,
Yeah.
don't know exactly where those numbers are because we haven't had them in school, and those numbers haven't been tested from doors and
Absolutely.
windows.
And that's why we wanted to pull them out, to make it very transparent and fair, that we're not claiming false
Yeah.
savings, for one.
Yeah.
But I will add that it did take work for them for the
Right.
facilities team and for Kyle and for Train together to cut back on schedules, break areas out so that it was an active portion of setting those back.
Right,
So-
work was, have to be done to accomplish that.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of steps that's been taken. I mean, you know, like today on Red Cliff, when we were down there for our tour and lunch today, restroom lights, you know, you walk in, it's dark in there. There's a light comes on, and not too long after you leave, it's off. So all it's savings. We used to turn the lights on, never turn them off. Didn't think nothing about it. But
Absolutely.
that's,
Will there come a point where we just stop seeing the savings?
I would say that you're going to plateau somewhere,
Right.
and so that's really why, like, in 2017 to 18, we focused just on John Hardin and Central Hardin, and then we did kind of hit a plateau. So we're still watching those, but then we chose to keep adding other schools to the program so that we could just keep driving more savings. While you still don't want to turn a blind eye to those schools, because when you do that, they start to creep up in their energy usage and the savings is diminished. So we want to keep watching those, but turn our major focus of driving efforts at other buildings.
all right.
Okay. Well, thank you all.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Thank you, that's great.